let's talk about this purple revolution. So if you guys haven't heard about the purple revolution that is going on, there are a few people who have come out with the idea of unifying the left and the right to create a purple revolution. Now, the people who are spearheading this revolution were people who consistently voted for Bone Spurs. Despite everything that Bone Spurs did, despite all the warnings that they had, they walked in that voting booth in November and they voted for Bone Spurs, despite everything that they knew he was going to do. These people feeling the effects now of Bone Spurs' policies and finally understanding that his policies doesn't just hurt other people, it hurts them too. They're coming out for this purple revolution, saying that we should all come together to fight the regime. Now, I want to be extremely clear about something. I am not against the purple revolution. As a progressive myself, I have always understood that the people on the top have been using fear-mongering tactics and stoking the hate and fear that some people who are ignorant to the subjects feel to get those people to vote against themselves. That is something that has been happening for decades. And it is something that Bernie Sanders pointed out during his 2015 run as well as his 2020 run. This isn't new. The top versus the bottom concept has been spoken about by progressives for a while now. So I do appreciate that they are finally catching up to what progressives have been saying this entire time. I appreciate that. And I want to applaud the main guy who is trying to start this revolution. I believe his name is Purple Revolutionary or something like that. I will tag him to this video on TikTok so that you can see what he has been saying. I applaud him for coming out, being vulnerable, taking accountability for his actions, and apologizing to the people he has hurt. Thing is, I don't think that this revolution is going to work the way that they want it to. And it's for quite a few reasons. For one, a lot of the people coming out about this revolution want to skirt past the politics of this revolution. They don't want to talk about politics. They don't want to talk about the ideals that they had that led us to this point. They want to skip past how we got here and then just go straight to everybody join this movement because those people are hurting us. When there are certain people in this country who have been hurt by the government. They have been hurt for decades and centuries in this country. And those people who are talking about a revolution now are just now feeling how oppressive the government can be. I think it is rich that the people that I have seen following and jumping on board of this movement, this purple revolution on both the left and the right, are people who represent a demographic that has never been oppressed by the government. These people who are talking about, yeah, let's come together now, are people who have never had to worry about whether their husband would make it home if he got stopped by the cops. Never had to worry about your child being pew-pewed in the face for knocking on the wrong door. They have never had to worry about what name to give their children, because if you gave your children too much of an ethnic name, it would make it difficult for them to find work when they got older. You have never had to worry about switching your accent on a phone interview so that you can get in the door for that job, being passed over for a job that you are more than qualified for, only for someone with half of your experience to get said job simply because they were the right demographic. The people who are talking about this revolution right here are missing one specific thing about bringing people together. And they are doing it because they don't really want to take an introspective look as to why we are here right now. Bone Spurs was the result, but he is not the cause of why we are here. The oppression started long ago. Propaganda against others that don't look like you started long ago. And in order for this movement to actually move, we need to address the root causes of how we got here in the first place. Voting against a woman's right to choose, against someone's right to marry, against children's rights to be in a classroom and not be attacked. Trans rights in this country, the human rights of people who immigrate to this country. These are all the things that the people who are talking about this revolution voted against. But they don't want to talk about that because they just want people to skip right past it and join them. All of a sudden, trust them. But the thing is, if they had never lost anything in this current administration, would they still be trying to do a revolution? As people suffer who don't look like them, don't live like them, would they still see the atrocities of what is going on in this country? And if they themselves were not affected by it, do you think that they would stand up against it? And this is why many in the Black community, almost everybody that I have seen, is like, yeah, they're not talking to us. This revolution ain't for us. They're saying we're invited to the revolution, but they're not talking about how we got here. The systematic oppression. These are the same people who rail against teaching critical race theory in schools. They don't want people to know how oppressive the system has always been for people, not them. And because they cannot take that step to reverse engineer the molecular structure of this government and the history that is not in a vacuum, because every event in American history led us to this exact point. You cannot have a clear revolution for everyone unless you dissect how we got here so that you can change everything in the future. In one of those videos, the Purple Revolutionary was saying that they wanted everybody, Black, brown, Hispanic, immigrant, trans, and all this other stuff. They want everybody to join with them. But then what's going to happen after? We have other influencers talking about we need to table all of our issues for now and focus on the regime. We'll figure it out when we get there. No. 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 The whole enemy of my enemy is my friend only works as long as there is an enemy. As soon as that enemy has been taken care of, the people who have been oppressed in this country will continue to be oppressed in this country. And once again, our bodies will line the streets for your benefit. Just like with the civil rights movement. Our lives will be on the line, only for us to have to get to the back of the line when it comes to the benefits. There cannot be a revolution in this country without a massive change of mindset. And there cannot be a massive change of mindset in this country if you keep ignoring the fact that there is that mindset. It comes off as you just want to unify because it's hurting you. And as soon as it's not hurting you anymore, you'll totally forget that the people oppressed in this country are human. And there's even one influencer in this revolution who is saying that the differences that the right and left had are petty differences. The right to exist is not a petty difference. Human rights are non-negotiable. You do not have the right to tell someone that they cannot exist. That is not a petty difference. Y'all want to skip right over the responsibility part. You can say, hey, I make no excuses. I am so sorry for the people hurt and all of this other stuff. But my thing is this. Where are the videos about Trey Reed, about the raids in Chicago, talking about the oppression that you have voted for? Where are the videos with you explaining what you have learned about history and how people have been systematically oppressed in this country, and people like you have continuously voted for such policies, knowing good and darn well that you hurt other people just because it didn't hurt you? And now that it is, now you want to come together. Now you think that everybody should be equal. Well, it is really difficult for people who have been oppressed their entire lives to look at this revolution and feel anything but distrust, uncertainty, and skepticism. With something like this, you're not going to be able to cut corners. Now, for the people who want to join this movement and think that everybody should come together, I highly encourage it. Because if you guys are going to protest at things like the No Kings movement, Frozen People protest, if these people who are talking about this revolution want to rally their people to come and join the people who are protesting right now, do it. I highly encourage that. But just understand that the oppressed people of this country are probably not going to join this movement until there is demonstration of a real understanding of how we got here in the first place. And I really hope that people can collectively reach that understanding so that when this regime is toppled, we can indeed break down and start over, deleting the oppressive systems that have been ingrained in this country from the very beginning.